So last week I started a little summer series, Summer Psalms. I wanted us to spend some time caring for, nurturing our souls, our hearts. Life has a way of beating us down. We live in a world that is so chaotic, so mad, so strange. We live in the world where the Babylon Bee is actually the news headlines, right? Like, it's difficult to write satire. And the pace of this world is, well, it's draining. It's constant. It's non-stop. We're driven by, in so many ways, we're slaves to our own technology. We rarely unplug. We rarely disconnect. And when we do, we feel awkward. As we take this summer, coming into the fall, knowing what's coming in the fall. Y'all know what's coming. I mean, we already just started it this week. It's a terrible season. It's a terrible time. Election madness, billions of dollars being raised and spent, and insults hurled, and sides being taken, and whoever they are, they want your heart. They want your soul. They want your fear. They want your hope. And that's not who we're to be. We're in the world, but not of the world. We're to be a different people. We belong to God. And so I want us to spend a few weeks this summer preparing our souls for what's coming, taking care of our souls. Last week we started by talking about the importance of aim, the importance of direction, what it is that we're hoping to achieve, what it is that we're hoping to become. Now, I don't know about you, but I've spent a lot of time this week watching the Olympic trials. I love it. I love it. I love to watch these athletes give it their all and do amazing things. I love it. And I was thinking this week about why I love it. I love it because in so many ways, it's about aim. Like, these are people that have aimed their lives at something significant. Like, they're not at the Olympic trials just for something to do. Like, they know what they want. It's like every interview, and I don't know what the IQ requirements for interviewers are, but it's a pretty low bar because of the questions they ask. How did you feel? What are you hoping to achieve? They all know nobody's like, well, I'm hoping I could get to Paris and get a bronze medal. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all about aim. And there's something about that. When we see somebody that's got their aim right, when they're focused, when they're going, and then when they perform to that aim, it draws us in. Right? And it's amazing. It's subconscious too. Like, you'll be watching it and somebody does something unbelievable, and you're just like, it's just, you're drawn into it. They've got their aim right. And aim is absolutely essential. But aim by itself doesn't actually get you anywhere. Like, we all know people that have vaulty aims, right? Like, big aims. I'm gonna be a superstar. I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna be this. I'm gonna be that. As they sit on their couch eating their potato chips, aim is good. Aim is essential, but aim is just the starting point. So when we watch the Olympic trials or later when we watch the Olympics, we're not only seeing people that have their aim right, We're seeing people that have organized their life in such a way that they might actually reach that aim. And you don't get to see that. Like, you see the performance. You see the sprint. You see the hurdle. You see some 16-year-old girl balancing on a beam doing crazy, stupid stuff. It's amazing. But what you don't see is the mornings they got up early since they were 9 years old. What you don't see is the parties they didn't go to. What you don't see is the sugar they didn't eat. What you don't see when you're watching that incredible performance is all the discipline, all the effort, all the energy, all the focus, all the pattern of their life that allowed them to accomplish that incredible effect. See, if you want to be a great athlete, you got to put in the work. No one ever says, hey, if you want to be a great athlete, just go vault 18 feet. Go run a sub 4-minute mile. You tell the young athlete, get to the gym. Get your sleep. Get your nutrition right. Get around people that know how to do what it is that you want to do. Find a good trainer. Give yourself some structure, and then work hard. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen in a week. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to devote your life. You're going to have to keep that aim focused. That aim is going to guide you. It's going to guard you. That aim is going to tell you what to say yes to and what to say no to. But then you've got to build structures. You've got to build practices. You've got to build discipline in your life that make you the kind of person that can reach the aim that you're going for. Y'all, the same is absolutely true of the Christian life. But we haven't been taught to think about it that way. We hear the commands of Jesus. We hear the description of a follower of Jesus. Turn the other cheek. Go the extra mile. Lay down your life for your friends. So we hear this call, this description, and our mistake is that we think that following Jesus consists in loving our enemies, going the second mile, turning the other cheek, suffering patiently and hopefully, while living the rest of our lives just as everyone else around us lives. So I'm going to live like Jesus. I'm going to love like Jesus. I'm going to look like Jesus. I'm going to think like him. I'm going to serve like him. But my life, see, that's our aim, right? But my life is going to be structured just like everybody else around me. I'm going to be structured by the paradigms and patterns of the world rather than the paradigms and patterns of Jesus. And then we wonder why we're not very good at it. It's the equivalent of you stepping out onto that track in Eugene, Oregon tomorrow and trying to run the 400-meter hurdles. Quite frankly, I would love to watch most of you try that. It might be the most entertaining thing you've seen in a long time. But is there any one of us that would bet on any one of us to win that race? It doesn't just happen. Spiritual maturity, the fruit of the Spirit, a life that emulates and looks like Jesus, doesn't just happen. You got to aim for it. Like, if you're not aiming for it, it's certainly not going to happen. But even if you're aiming for. And I would hope most of us, if not all of us in this room, would agree, man. We want to do better. We want to be better. We want to matter. We want our lives to reflect the glory of Jesus. We want to be the Imago Dei, the imagers of God that we were made to be. We want to pick up our cross and follow. We want to turn the other cheek. We want to love our enemy. We want to suffer and hope. We want to live a life well lived. We want to hear from Jesus, well done, good and faithful servant. That's absolutely essential. You've got to want it. But then you've got to order and organize your life in such a way. You've got to order and organize your life in such a way that you actually become that kind of person. See, I quoted C.S. Lewis last week. The soul is a hollow made for God to fill. We're vessels. We've been made by God to be filled by God. The reality is we're not empty vessels. We're constantly filling ourselves and being filled by all sorts of things. Things that aren't of God, things that are anti-God. Our souls far too often look like my junk drawer. You got a junk drawer, don't you? In your kitchen, in your office, somewhere. It's that black hole pit of, I don't know what to do this right now, so you throw it in there. See, and I think our souls tend to resemble that. We put a little bit of Jesus in, but we put a little Fox News in, or we put a little CNN in, and we put a little Oprah in, and we put a little of our neighbor in, and our childhood trauma comes in, and our jerk boss comes in, and we clutter our souls. And y'all, we live out of our souls. And so it's no wonder that our lives become a little bit schizophrenic. So we're living a little bit out of Jesus and a little bit out of the world. A little bit out of hope and a little bit out of fear. Right? A little bit by the grace of God and far too much by the works of the flesh. Our souls are meant to be filled by God. And in order for us to actually reach our aim, in order for us to become the kind of people that can and reach and do reach those aims, we've got to clear room in our souls for that which our souls were made for. We've got to have space for God. In order to have that space, man, we got to detach. We got to detach from the world, and we've got to attach to God. There has to be this conscious choice, this decision. Now, let me be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not saying run and hide from the world. This is not an escapist. I need to detach from the world. The world's icky. The world's scary. The world's bad. I need to run away. I need to hide from it. I need to bury my head in the sand. That's not what I'm saying. Listen, the whole gospel is centered on the incarnation. Like Jesus came into the world. When God made the world in Genesis, he didn't look at it and say, it is bad. No, he says it's good. We're not anti-materialists as Jesus followers. We love God's creation. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. All right, so I'm not saying we have to fear the world or run away from the world or escape the world and we need to isolate. I'm not calling us for us to huddle and cuddle and just let the world go to hell in a handbasket. Aren't you glad Jesus didn't do that? Right? So I don't mean, when I say we got to detach from the world and attach to God, I'm not saying we got to run and hide, but I'm saying we need to attach ourselves, willingly, intentionally attach ourselves to God for life Like, not just belief. I'm not just talking about faith. Of course, it includes that. But I'm talking about a way of living with God. A functional reality. Like, how many of you have come into a worship service like this and had the realization that you haven't thought about or talked to God since you were here last week? So I'm not going to make you raise your hands and embarrass you, but my guess is most, if not all, and let's be honest, it's all of us, we've had that reality. We turn God into a box to be checked. We do our God thing, we do our God time, and then we get her out to the business of life. Now, what I want to say this morning, what I think the scriptures screams at us, is that we're made for God all the time, in everything. And if we don't discipline, if we don't choose, if we don't intention ourselves to live that way, we won't live that way. So we need to detach from the patterns, the rhythms, the assumptions, the structures of this world, not to run away, not to escape, but to have objectivity, to have clarity, and to get to the source of reality. So it's not just that we have to detach, but then we have to reattach to something, and that's to God. The psalm I want us to look at together this morning is one that we all know. Probably the most well-known psalm in the book, Psalm 23. It is that because it is so profound and so important. So if you got your Bibles, let's look there together at Psalm 23. And before I even begin to read these first familiar words, try to read it, try to hear it like you've never heard it before. And let's together try to listen to what it's actually saying. Yeah, it's going to give us a metaphor. It's going to give us a series of beautiful metaphors, but those metaphors are pointing to a reality. This is not meaningless religious jargon. It's not a spiritual platitude. This is a profound description of reality that is available to us. But it's not a given. It's got to be chosen. Right from the very beginning, Yahweh, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And I've heard countless people, especially those that have an antagonism towards Christianity, grew up in the church and walked away, say, see, the Lord is my shepherd, but I want my marriage to be better. I want my kids to be smarter. I want my job to be better. I want my bank account to be richer. I want my body to be healthier. I want. We're good at wanting, aren't we? But if we read this, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, and there's any part of us that says, I'm not sure that's true. Because I have all this wanting and God doesn't seem to be helping me out. We got to identify the problem. So the problem's either with God or it's with us. Now, I don't know how Vegas would stack those odds, but I know there's probably a better chance the problem's with us than it is with God. And so what I want you to see, right from the start, is the functionality of this. So if we say it this way, if the Lord is my shepherd, then I shall not want. If your soul finds itself wanting, It's not because the Lord isn't a good shepherd. It's because he's not your shepherd. Okay, now I'm not trying to be harsh, and I'm not going hellfire and brimstone here this morning. I'm talking practically and functionally. See, so when you find yourself angsty, it's a good word, right? When you find yourself angsty and anxious, fearful and frustrated, when you find yourself short-tempered, when you find yourself saying to yourself, where is God? Why hasn't God shown up? Why is this not happening? Why are these things happening? When you find yourself in that moment, it's not that God isn't a good shepherd, it's that you're not looking to him as the shepherd. It's because when he is your shepherd, you shall not want. Now, that's not the prosperity gospel. That's not easy triumphalism. We'll see that in the rest of the text. But it is a state of being. It's the state. I quoted Paul last week. I've learned the secret of contentment, whether I have a bunch or whether I have nothing, whether I'm free, whether I'm in prison, whatever. I've learned the secret. When God is your shepherd, you shall not want. It's a functional statement. It's not a religious meme. What is a shepherd? It's a metaphor. It's a great metaphor. The scripture isn't the only one that uses this metaphor of the relationship between God and man. The ancient Near Eastern, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, all these ancient peoples, we have all sorts of records of them describing Marduk and Bel and Baal as the great shepherd. Why? Because it's a great illustration because of what a shepherd does. A shepherd guards. A shepherd provides. A shepherd protects. A shepherd controls and orders and organizes. Shepherd's got a staff to direct and control. The shepherd's got a rod to beat and protect. The shepherd knows where the water is. The shepherd understands the needs of the sheep and the grazing. The shepherd talks to the sheep and the sheep know his voice. The shepherd's in intimate relationship. It's no wonder that this is such a profound and common metaphor. And it's no wonder that this is the most well-known psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. It speaks to this great desire within humanity to have someone that knows us, that loves us, that guards us, that gives to us, that walks and watches over us. But it's not a given. This is a description of the psalmist. He's saying, the Lord is my shepherd. It's a functional description. This is how I live my life. I look to Yahweh to get me to good water. I look to Yahweh to get me to good pasture. I look to Yahweh to protect me from the enemies. I listen to Yahweh. I know his voice. I order and organize my life around Yahweh because he is the one that can actually order and organize my life towards life. See how this is a functional description? See, it's not abstract, objective truth. Is God a shepherd? Yes. Is God your shepherd? Even that, we can say, yeah, he's my shepherd. Are you living your life in such a way that you can honestly say, or anybody that could observe your life would say, that person's being directed. That person's being cared for. That person's being guarded by God. That person's got a shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And see, listen to how he describes it. He causes me to lie down in green pasture. He leads me beside still waters. The shepherd understands the needs of the flock. And so, but notice the language that is used. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. It's a description of peace, of stillness. It's a picture of abundance for sure. He causes me to lie down, to get off my feet, to receive. And he leads me beside still waters. This idea of like, what kind of shepherd is God? If you're going to make him as your shepherd, what's he going to do? And he says, no, he's going to provide what you actually need. And it's probably not what we think it is. That's half our problem anyway. We come to God because we think he's the answer to our question, when he's asking completely different questions. It says, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. So he organizes and orchestrates my life in such a way that something happens. And that is in the next verse. He restores my soul. Who wants that this morning? Both hands. Both hands. I need it. Haven't our souls been battered? Do you even remember what it was like to be a carefree child? Do you even remember what it was like to not have a battered soul? I mean, life. Here's the reality. Life is brutal, y'all. We got to quit treating life like it's a game, like it's safe, like it's not. Life is unimaginably brutal and painful. And there's a cost to life. We hurt our own soul. Others hurt our own soul. We've got an enemy that wants to do nothing but corrupt and destroy our soul. But what does God want? God wants to restore our soul. We're a vessel made to be filled by God. God wants to restore our soul. But see, notice the metaphor. The Lord is my shepherd. He's the one that guides. He's the one that leads. He's the one that provides. And when that happens, when we follow, when we obey, when we're with him, when we hear and recognize his voice, when we function as sheep led by a shepherd, then our souls are restored. We want this verse to say the Lord is a magician. The Lord is a genie. We want it to be a wish. Lord, restore my soul. And he wants to, right? It's not like you got to convince God to restore your soul. That's what he wants. That's what he made you for. We're like, God, restore my soul right now. Is there an app for that? God, restore my soul. The Lord is a magician. Boom, it's supposed to just happen. And then it does. See, okay, God, restore my soul. And our soul's not restored immediately, spontaneously, magically. We're like, God, you failed me. I'm going to go damage my soul some more. And after a little while, I'm going to ask you to do it again. That's not the metaphor, y'all. You want your soul restored? He's got to be your shepherd. You want your soul restored? You need to lie down in green pastures and still waters and be with the restorer of your soul. It's not something that's taught as much as it's caught. It's not spontaneous. It's not instantaneous. We're so used to thinking about God that way because we've minimalized God to just this great forgiving machine. And justification is instantaneous. We're saved by grace through faith. Like that happens. We go from death to life. We're not talking about receiving the spiritual life. That is instantaneous. We're talking about growing in the spiritual life, and that's progressive. Why would you think your soul would be restored when you don't spend any time with the shepherd? Why would you think you'd be able to love your enemy or turn the other cheek or pray for those that persecute you? Why would you think that you'd respond like Christ when you don't know much about Christ? I hope you're hearing this from a heart of love this morning. We need our hearts to be restored, but we don't want to pay the price. We don't want to follow the shepherd. We want to be the shepherd. We're constantly dealing with this rebellion and reality of sin, this desire for control. I'd like to tell God how to be God. And unfortunately for me and for everybody else on the planet, God's not really interested in that paradigm. He made us in his image. It's not the other way around. He continues. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Well, that's a mind-blowing phrase. We probably blow past it in this psalm, but that's a mind-blowing. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. You see, we want him to lead us for our name's sake. As if our name actually counts for something. You should thank God every day that he doesn't lead you for your name's sake. This is maybe one of the best things in this psalm, that he leads us for his name's sake. That he doesn't take our weak, insipid, pathetic desires as a foundation for how he's going to lead us. Any more than when you ask your child, hey, what do you want for dinner? And they say gummy worms and chocolate, you're like, cool. He leads us in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Paths of righteousness. This is a journey. It's got direction to it. And it's got order and structure to it. And he leads us in it. It doesn't say he transports us. You got to walk. It's a way of life. And sometimes that way of life takes us places we'd rather not go. Right? Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Of course, at its ultimate, it's referring to our own death that we're all facing, but we walk through the valley of the shadow of death on a daily basis. Death of our integrity, the death of our relationships, the death of our dreams, the death of our... We walk through the valley of the shadow of death all the time. See, but when he's leading you on the path of righteousness for his name's sake, that even when he guides you through the valley of death, which isn't really an option. So like, why can't he walk us somewhere else? Because it's real. The valley of death is real. And we all got to walk through it. So even when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't have to fear any evil. Why? Because I'm so awesome? No. For you are with me. you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The tools of the shepherd, the rod and the staff, bring comfort to the one that's close to the shepherd. When the Word of God, when the ways of God, when the lifestyle of God feels uncomfortable, it's merely a reflection of our distance from the shepherd. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Again, this is not, if you follow the Good Shepherd, you're never going to run across wolves. You're never going to see mountain lions. You're never going to have obstacles. No, they're there. They're there. By yourself. You got to face them by yourself. But with the Good Shepherd, even in the presence of the enemies, he's still preparing a table. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. There it is again, this idea. We're vessels, we're hollows, we're cups made to be filled by God. And when he's your shepherd, when you're with him, when you're walking in the paths of righteousness, when you're being comforted by his rod and staff, when you've ordered and organized your life to be ordered and organized by God, your soul is restored. Even in the valley of the shadow of death, even in the presence of enemies. He's there with you. And the great culmination of this psalm, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Yahweh forever. If the Lord is your shepherd now, here, you can have hope and confidence that he will be your shepherd then and there. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Again, in the presence of the enemies, in the valley of the shadow of death, you'll find mercy. You can find goodness because he's there with us. Or better said, we're there with him. Because we follow the shepherd, he doesn't follow us. See, we need to detach from the patterns, the structures, the systems, the assumptions of this world, and we need to attach ourselves to God. That's what this psalm is all about. It's about the functional reality of following God with your life. Like an Olympic athlete who says, this is my goal, and now I'm going to order and organize and structure my life so that I got a shot. We want to be the kind of people described by Jesus who love their enemies and pray for those that persecute us and turn the other cheek and go the other mile and bless and shine the beauty and glory of Jesus. We've got to live our lives with the shepherd. We've got to organize our lives in such a way that we're not being shaped by the patterns of this world, but we're being shaped by the Spirit of God. You know, Jesus modeled this for us. It's to me, it's one of the brilliant and beautiful things about the incarnation, that he's fully God and fully man. And what we see in Jesus in the Gospels is this model and image of what the image is supposed to look like. He's the exact representation. He's the true icon. He's what you and I are supposed to be, but we've been marred and defaced by sin. Jesus was without sin, and yet Jesus consistently detached himself from the world to attach himself to the Father. We see it all through the Gospels. In Mark's Gospel, we get it right in the first chapter. First chapter, like Jesus is out and he's performing miracles and he's preaching and announcing the gospel of the kingdom, and people are responding. And then in Mark 1:35, it says this: rising very early in the morning. That hurts me. Well, that's just a me thing. Rising very early in the morning, while it was still dark. See, I would have been like, Jesus, it's still dark. That means it's sleepy time. But he's got an aim. And he's got a purpose, and he's going to show us a pattern of life. Early in the morning, while it was still dark, he departed and went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. He communed. He abided. He talked. He listened. He goes into solitude. He goes into quietness. He leaves the madness of the crowds. He leaves the busyness of his life. And I know you're saying, I don't got time for that. My life is so crazy, so chaotic. I don't got time to pray. Would you like to say your life has more pressure on it than Jesus's did? So he's in this town, and there's all these sick people, and he's healing them, and there's these demon-possessed people, and he's setting them free, and there's these lost people, and he's announcing the kingdom, and they're coming home. And there's this pressure, this intensity. And what does he do? He detaches. In the middle of the night, he gets up while it's still dark. He goes out, and he prays to the Father, like he communes. See, so he's detaching from the pain and the pressure and the chaos of the world, and attaching himself to the fullness and the life and the vibrancy of the Father. And I love this. It says Simon and those who were with him, they search for him. So they wake up, like, where'd Jesus go? Did you lose him again? So they go, and they search for him, and they found him, and they said to him, everyone is looking for you. Doesn't it feel like that sometimes? Everyone is looking for you. Everybody's got an agenda for you. We thought technology was going to make our lives easier, give us more freedom, more space. You ever watched like the commercials from the 50s? You know, like, these new ovens, these new vacuums, they're going to give you so much more time. We have less time now than any culture has ever had. We're driven. Like, do you remember if you wanted to talk to somebody? Like, there was a time, actually most of the time in history, if you wanted to talk to somebody, you had to go to their house. And then we invented phones, so then you could, like, call them. Now you're constantly at everyone's disposal. My wife and I are going to go on a cruise here at the end of this month to Alaska. And I'm super excited about glaciers. I'm excited about bears. Not so excited about the cold, but I'll survive. Do you know what I'm most excited about? I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm going to put it in the safe. And I'm going to ignore it for 7 days. Yeah. You need something? Call Pastor Denny. I'm out. We need to regularly do this. This pace that we run at is not what we were designed for. It's too much for our souls. People used to only have to deal with the trauma and pain of their family or their near community. We now have to deal with the pain and the trauma of the world. Every mass shooting, every abduction, every murder, every racial incident, every country, in every place, at every moment, at every time is constantly coming at our hearts and our souls. we have to decide, what are we going to do with it? How do I know what to care about? I got to care about global warming. I got to care about abortion. I got to care about racism. I got to care about misogyny. I got to care about this election. I got to care about this. I got to care about the economy. And our souls are not designed to handle the burdens of the world for one reason and one reason only, because we're not God. We're trying to live like we are. Our souls are broken and cracked, frayed. We need God to restore our souls. We've got to be more like Jesus. Like they came in and said, everyone's looking for you, and I love his response. He's like, cool, we're going to go somewhere else. So need is a harsh taskmaster. Like if you're driven by the needs of everyone around you, you will be exhausted and schizophrenic. You've got to follow the shepherd in the midst of the need, and you've got to trust him. It's like if Jesus needed to detach and attach, how dare we think we could get by without it? And of course, the mystery and the beauty of Jesus is that he's not only the model of this, but Jesus himself becomes the one that sets us free. Jesus is the one that calls us to come to him. See, his words here in Matthew 11 are, again, not a religious platitude, but a practical, pragmatic instruction. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Here's the deal. I'm just going to break this down as gently, but as logically and truthfully as I can. If your soul does not feel rest right now, it is because you are not coming to Jesus. That's the logic of this statement. If it's not, Jesus is a liar. It doesn't say come to church. He doesn't say come to religious practice. He says come to me. Come to me. He's not talking about walking an aisle or praying a prayer. He's talking about a relational way of life. If you're burnt out by this world, and I don't know how you couldn't be, Jesus says, come to me and I will give you rest. But it's not Jesus the magician. It's Jesus the good shepherd. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. So he uses this imagery of a yoke that you put on an oxen. But a yoke was also a description of the teaching of a rabbi. The way of life of a rabbi, of a teacher, an instructor, of a shepherd. So Jesus says, okay, come to me and I'll give you rest. And the way you're going to find that rest is by taking my way of life upon you. It's not a burdensome life. It's a good life. It's a life of rest. It's a life of detachment so that you can actually attach to the source of life, God. See, he says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. See, because of Jesus, we can go to Jesus. Because he modeled it for us. Because he is like us, tempted, but yet, unlike us, was without sin. Because he actually came and lived the kind of life that we all desire. A life of meaning, a life of value, a life of peace, a life that mattered, a life in harmony with the Creator. Jesus lived that. He says, now, if you come to me, I will give you that way of life. Not just the experience that comes at the end of it. I'm going to give you the way of life that will make you the kind of person that will naturally be that. So do we go to him? Or do we just grit our teeth and try harder to make it through life, to figure it out on our own? You know, in 2013, Disney afflicted us all with the movie Frozen. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing some cringy rendition of Let It Go. Let It Go became this mantra, this anthem, this like it just hit the cultural zeitgeist. It was everywhere. Let it go, let it go, let it go. So the story, right? It's this, Elsa's this princess, this queen, and she's got the Midas touch, but it's not turning everything to gold. It's everything she touches freezes and spends most of her life in hiding, but then comes out and there's this catastrophe. So what does she do? What does Elsa do when confronted with the horrors and the brokenness of the world? She runs away and hides. And the anthem that everybody's singing, like it's some great virtue. Let it go, right? Like what is she doing while she's singing the song? She's running away and building her ice fortress so that nobody can come in, so that nobody can hurt her. She's going to protect her heart by killing her heart. And we're like watching little girls sing this and going, man, that's so cute. You should be careful what you let your kids watch, by the way. The better title for the song would be, Let's Kill Our Hearts. Let's kill our hearts. So I was thinking about that this week, and I was thinking about how much of modern Christianity is actually kind of the same thing. We get disappointed with God because we put expectations on him that are from us and not from him. We're living in a broken, ugly world. We're sinners and we're sinned upon. And the message subtly and not so subtly becomes, just wait to die, and then when you die, you'll float off to heaven and everything will be okay then. The only problem with that is, everything, because that's not what Jesus said. Jesus didn't say, I've come that you might have life and life that comes later and there. No, he says, I've come that you might have life here and now, abundant life, real life, true life, peaceful life, restful life, soul-restoring life, here, now, today, you, me, in this world, in this place. Jesus says, come to me if you want life. Following Jesus is not a program of shutting down your heart. It's a program of guarding and guiding and repairing your heart. Of training your heart. Having your heart be filled by God, which it was made for. But it's a process, not a product. It's the fruit of and the result of a way of life, a consistent pattern of behavior. 1 Peter 5 says, humble yourself therefore under the mighty hand of God so that at the proper time he may exalt you. Humble yourself. Recognize your reality. Recognize your weakness. Recognize your limitations. Recognize what you do have and what you don't have. What you are and what you aren't. Humble yourself is an exercise of reality defining. Know who you are and know who you aren't. Humble yourself under the mighty hand of God. It's also knowing who he is. So I'm not going to tell the shepherd where to go. I'm going to follow the shepherd. Because I know what I am and I know what he is. I know who's in charge. That at the proper time he may exalt you. proper time. Our proper time is right now. Casting all. Not some of. Not most of. Not a set of. Casting all of your anxieties on him because he cares for you. You want to be the kind of person that looks like Jesus, that lives like Jesus, that loves like Jesus, that serves like Jesus? You want a life of meaning and matter, of substance and significance. You want to shine like stars in the universe. You want to be the light of the world that Jesus is calling you to be. Doesn't just happen. It is the fruit of an organized and intentioned life that is aimed and led by the shepherd of our souls, Jesus. Casting your cares upon him is detachment. Because he loves you is attachment. It's a way of life. So in that sense, we do have to let it go. We got to let go of the patterns of this world. We've got to let go of the value structures of this world. We've got to let go of our incessant desire to control. We've got to let it go. We've got to give it to him. We don't just give him part of it. We got to give him all of it. And man, that's not easy. That's not easy. I mean, we offer it up to him. Got to give it to you. I mentioned this prayer technique that I've been using regularly every day, multiple times a day. A pause. God, I give you everyone and everything. And then I turn around and I'm immediately obsessed about everyone and everything. So I got to stop. No, okay. See, the fact that I'm still worried about it means I haven't. Lord, I give you everything. So in order to detach, we got to choose to detach. If you want to unclutter your soul, if you want to clean out the junk drawer, you actually got to open up the junk drawer and start pulling stuff out. Like Jesus, we need disciplines of silence, of solitude, of stillness. You need to order your life in such a way that you get time with the only one that can restore your soul. And that's a choice, y'all. It's one you got to make, not just once, but every day, over and over and over and over and over again. Who am I looking to shepherd me? Who am I looking to fill me? Who am I looking to heal me? Do I know his voice? Does he know mine? We need that pause. Lord, I give you everyone and everything. We need to detach so that we can attach. Lord, I need you. Lord, I want you. Lord, you are my shepherd. Help me. Help me to follow. Help me to hear your voice. Help me to know your voice. Take me to the green pastures. Guide me to the still waters. God, I need you to restore my soul. We've heard and been preached at a gospel that says Jesus wants to get you out of hell and take you to heaven. And that's not wrong. It's just not right either. It's not the whole picture. He wants to do that, of course. But he wants to do that as a byproduct, as a fruit of making you into what you were always designed to be, of restoring your soul, of putting the image back together. So much of the American gospel is just praying a prayer, believing a fact, trusting that when I die, I go to heaven, I don't go to hell. And all the time, Jesus is going, I want to put your heart back together. Your life looks like Humpty Dumpty. And all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put it back together, but Jesus can. But instead of going to Jesus to have our souls restored, we're going everywhere else. Or we're just too busy. You know, Martin Luther said, this is before cell phones, before the internet, before airplanes and cars, like before all of the modern madness. He said this, if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. What would he say if he could see the busyness of our lives? Church, we got to slow down. We got to choose to make Jesus our shepherd. That's a volitional choice. It's a functional and pragmatic reality. It's very practical, one, because we're not designed to carry the burdens of the world. Because we're frankly not that competent. It's beyond us. I love how sometimes Jesus like sucker punches. Like he just comes out of the blue and he hits it. Here's one. Luke 12, verse 25. It says, which of you by being anxious can add a single hour to his span of life? And he's talking about being anxious. Like, well, we're supposed to cast our anxieties upon him because he cares for us. And Jesus is telling, don't be anxious. And he says, why are you being anxious? It's not even functionally productive. It's wasted time and energy. Okay, so which of you, by being anxious, can add an extra hour to your lifespan? And here comes the sucker punch. He says, if you're not able to do such a small thing as that, I'm like, that's a small thing? Like, if somebody could invent something that would add an extra hour to your life, they would be the richest person in history. It would be the most momentous invention in all of time and history. And Jesus says, that's a small thing. And it is a small thing to the one who spoke the universe into existence. It is a small thing to the one who exists out of time, space, and matter. It is a small thing to the inexhaustible, unfettered, truly free one that we call God, that we've come to know as Jesus the King. It is a small thing. But he's like, you can't even do that. Why are you anxious about the rest? Why are you anxious about the rest? Church, there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. Why don't we get off that road? Why don't we stop following the weak and lesser and evil shepherds of this world? Why don't we put down the staff and the rod that we've tried to construct for ourselves? How about we together follow the good shepherd, the one who laid his life down for the sheep, the one who is the way, the truth, and the life, and the one who actually knows and loves us. Let's follow the good shepherd, that he might restore our souls. Amen?